better. Cool. All right, can you introduce yourself again?
My name is Martin Leyva. I'm a graduate of Antioch University, Santa Barbara. Yeah.
Good deal. Can you share a little bit about your background and any information that you choose to and how it pertains to your time here at Antioch and what you do in the community?
My background, so I'm a graduate of Antioch, Santa Barbara. I was born and raised in the city of Santa Barbara. I came to Antioch via community college. I like to say, I'm an organizer and an activist in Santa Barbara. I stand for social justice in many different aspects, and for the purpose of this interview, it's really about the case that's really going on nationally, the cases going on nationally with no police indictments.
How did the decisions of Ferguson and New York by the grand jury affect the Santa Barbara community?
Well, I think that it affected the Santa Barbara community because it's an issue that just doesn't happen in Ferguson and it just doesn't happen in New York. It's an issue that happens nationally where police, for lack of better words, get away with murder. And a lot of people, so the Ferguson issue was not that big of a surprise. A lot of compelling evidence, which the people really don't know what happened. Wasn't that big of a surprise. But then since Michael Brown, there was a number of killings of black people. And then with Eric Garner in New York, it was one of those issues where my thought was there was a camera on the cops. Everything was recorded. Everybody saw what happened. There's no way they're not going to indict that cop. And when it came down as no indictment against the officer, it really affected this community and every community nationally because it's like, who do we call when cops kill? Who do we, Santa Barbara doesn't have a high rate of police killing people. We had a murder, our last police murder was September of 2013. Yeah, September of 2013, police officer shot Brian Takadina here. But there is cases of police brutality, and we're talking about brutality where police will, and sheriff's department will go after certain people. And so when there was no indictment in the Eric Garner case, a lot of people were really just upset, bothered, and with the uprising pretty much across the United States, Santa Barbara, other organizers and activists wanted to stand together in solidarity, saying, you know what, this affects us too. Not only in the black community, but Santa Barbara has a very small black community, but there's a majority of people of color. So Latino, Chicano, whatever you want to, whatever words is proper to you. But it's like, hey, how much can we take? How long can we handle this? How long can we not have police accountability? There's no such thing as, some cities have police oversight committees, but these committees have zero subpoena power. So it's just a recommendation. Oh, this cop did something bad. We recommend that he or she goes through the court system. We have no police oversights with subpoena power, and that's like, they carry no weight. So it affected us. It affected a lot of people here who do the work of social justice, who go against police brutality, who stand up for people in the courts and say, it's like everything just got stirred up really quick.
What role did you play in the rally that took place after the grand jury, and what was the expectation of those rallies?
So we had two rallies. One of them was after no indictment on Michael Brown, and the rally there was like standing in solidarity with the Brown family, standing in solidarity with Ferguson and the issues that they're dealing with over there. I understand looting, I understand violence in protests, because the people's voice needs to be heard. I'm not one to do that, especially since it's not my community that was affected by, or that indictment didn't happen in my community. So I organized those rallies, and in organizing those rallies, is like, let's bring the people together. Let's get as many people of color and white, because white people do have the privilege in this, not only in this area, but in the other in other areas, other communities. Let's bring them together and let's begin to have this dialogue. Let's begin to have this conversation about race, about police brutality. Let's begin to have this dialogue about, it's like the civil rights movement of the 60s. It's got to come back to the table. And so our community, I mean, we've got Antioch, we've got City College, which is a great college, we've got the university, you've got UCSB, you've got Westmont, you've got all these professors, these think tank people in this community, but nobody's talking about these big topics that are coming up. So the purpose of the rally was, let's gather the people, let's gather the churches who are here, which a lot of clergy came out. I'm not a religious person, but I said, who do we want to bring out to have these conversations, to start these topics, to really start talking about race, start talking about, and supposedly we live in a post-racial, racism doesn't, I hear it more now than ever. Oh, racism doesn't exist. Michael Brown stole something from a store. Not Enzo Ford, but who was another guy that got killed. But Eric Garner was selling cigarettes. It's like, that doesn't mean that those cops can play judge, jury, punisher, and for the most part, executioner. There's still a legal part of this system that was never, these guys never had a chance. So it's like, let's start having these conversations of what is the responsibility of the mayors, the city council members, the police chiefs, everybody who has something to do with how police act, So that rally for Michael Brown was to, let's get together, stand in solidarity with Ferguson, march, have our voices heard, and as peaceful as it was, I mean, there was a time where it felt like it was going to get out of hand, and I actually put my hands up and said, if it goes there, it goes there. But I was really trying to hold the people back. That's not in this community, but, and then the Eric Garner came up, which I was actually really surprised by. So I organized again. If Michael Brown wasn't big enough to start the conversation, Eric Garner just added to that, because it's like, let's talk about it. I can't talk about what it is to be black in this community. I'm not black, but I am a person of color. I have dealt with racial profiling. I have dealt with police pulling me over for no reason to ask me where I'm going, where I'm coming from. And it's like, what? How many times are you going to ask me where I'm going? How many times are you going to ask me where I'm coming from? It's really none of your business. I know my rights. So if that's happening to me, and I work with a lot of youth in this community, it happens to them, here in Santa Barbara is a place to talk about it. It's a place that, it's a conversation that needs to happen in every community, everywhere, So that's pretty much it there. What's
your message to Antioch students as far as, do they have a responsibility as being in a social justice school to do something, or do they have a call? Is there something that you would like to see done directly from the Antioch community?
Yes. I think Antioch, I think there's a lot of responsibility for this community, for the Antioch community. When we start thinking about what Antioch stands for, what it's stood for so many years, with Coretta Scott King coming to this school and having such a vital part in the civil rights movement, and what we teach. I mean, social justice is a big aspect of this school. I think that out of all the colleges that are around here, Antioch needs to push the envelope. What is privilege? A lot of white students that come here, how can we utilize that privilege to have voices heard? People of color come to this school. I think we need to really, I would love to see Antioch students get involved with the conversation. If I'm going to go talk to an official in this city to create change, my voice is going to be heard. But with somebody with more privilege than I have, it's going to be heard even more. And I think that when it comes to race, when it comes to ethics, when it comes to the conversation of, so many conversations come up from this, like police brutality, even like the psychological effects that this stuff has. Antioch is the perfect school. I mean, we get a lot of MFTs that come out of this community. We get a lot of people. I mean, Antioch teaches social justice. It's like, I was already an organizer and activist before I came here. When I came here, it was like, when I left here, it was like I had a whole other lens of what's really going on in this community, what's really happening at the larger, like at the global aspect of privileged and oppressed groups. And it's like, Antioch is the perfect place to have this conversation, and it's the perfect place to learn about policy, procedure. You know, we've got some pretty good teachers in this school who work at the state capitol. You know, I think that Antioch is a perfect platform, the perfect place to create a stage that says, let's talk about race. Let's talk about post-racial America. Let's talk about the abuse of police officers, the targeting, the racial profiling. Let's talk about prison numbers, unjustified murder, which they call justified. Let's start talking about this stuff, because I think that no matter what, social change is going to happen, and the conversation needs to happen starting in classrooms, move to the authoritarian people that hold space, move into the police department, and begin having these dialogues with the people who actually are causing the harm. You know, and I think that Antioch students, not only students, but the professors that teach here, the doors are open. Let's walk through it and let's see what we can do. I'd love to have these conversations, and they're starting to happen. I would love Antioch to be involved.